Hi, hello, and welcome back to MERAKI'S method. Today on Rock and Roleplay, we are going to be talking about retconning. There's four main areas to this. We're going to talk about what it is, why you might need to do it, when you should do it, and how you would do it. I think after all those, you'll be able to understand more about what a retcon is and how and when you can use them in your roleplay and when you probably shouldn't. Okay, so that's the plan for today. As always, disclaimer, I am just a role player. I've been role playing for a very long time, but I am not a professional. I am not qualified to tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing. Nobody is. Characters and the kind of stories that you enjoy, and you don't really get to tell other people what they should be role playing either. As long as everybody is safe and everything's consensual, it's all good. Everybody enjoys different things. That's totally fine. But yeah, this is just my opinion, my experience, and I'm sharing it with you in the hope that it is helpful to you, as always. So with that in mind, we're going to get into today's topic. So what is retconning? A retcon is just shortened form of retroactive continuity. That's the word I'm looking for. Retroactive continuity, shortened to retcon. To retcon means to change, to revise, or to undo something that has already happened. So for example, say your character had an incident with water as a child and they developed a phobia of water, and then you find out that the next expansion is going to be entirely water based. All the zones are underwater, the entire thing is in water. It functionally doesn't allow you to play the game. So you might consider retconning that phobia, or perhaps even retconning the severity of that phobia, just to make it more functional for you to engage in the roleplay around that. Otherwise you're going to be completely cut off from roleplay, and we're not trying to limit roleplay, we're not trying to cut people off from roleplay, we're trying to create more access to roleplay at all times if possible. So sometimes retconning can be beneficial in creating access to roleplay, or making a situation better, more functional for you and for other people in terms of that creative process. And again, people can retcon things quite often in MMORPGs because we're working with whatever lore and whatever storyline we've been given by the game devs and the company themselves, but they can change that, they can add to that. Parts of that might only come out at a later date. You might only discover the historical background behind a certain zone later, when it's relevant, when it comes out with that expansion, but that will have affected, the past for certain characters and things. So sometimes you do have to do a little bit of retconning in terms of making everything work, and things like that. Like, they'll often bring out new customizations, and there's no good reason why those shouldn't have been in the world the entire time, and whatever information you were working on before was just to try and make that make sense. But then they've brought out the customizations, and you have to try and work around those things being, functional in technically there the whole time, just the case of the company hadn't got around to putting them into the game until that point. So you kind of have to have a little bit of leeway anyway in roleplay. I know recently in Warcraft they brought out a bunch of eye colors, and I mean, in the lore technically I think you could have had different eye colors as a blood elf, for example, but you couldn't actually do that in game. So a lot of people were like, oh, you have to have green eyes, all blood elves have green eyes, etc. And then they brought out more eye colors for blood elves, and we're like, oh well, maybe maybe the lore was right, and and you kind of have to just have to be a bit loose with allowing people to like alter those things down the line when that becomes available, because they're doing their best with what they've got. We're all doing our best with what we've got, and we have to allow each other a bit of leniency and a little bit of space to do that, and to not use it as some kind of roadblock to roleplay that it really doesn't need to be. With that said, you will very often find retconning to be quite a divisive subject. A lot of people are against retconning in any way, shape or form. Some people will believe that retconning is absolutely terrible, should not be done under any circumstances, and some people believe that it's no big deal at all and can be done at the drop of a hat. I prefer to take a kind of middle ground to the concept. I do believe that it is necessary and useful in many cases, but also I believe that it shouldn't be thrown around all the time and used all the time, because it can make it difficult to keep a grasp on the story, and it can make continuity and consistency difficult if you're changing things all the time. Difficult for other people to follow as well. Like, if your character's constantly changing, it makes other people unable to keep up with your narrative and therefore disinterested and disengaged from the story you're trying to tell. So it's not something I would use all the time. And again, but I do feel like it is something that is useful to use in certain circumstances, when the situation calls for it, essentially. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But personally, I don't believe that retconning is the damning end all to roleplay and immersion that it needs to be. For example, when they brought out the lore about Meru, that he'd been giving it to them all along and stuff like that, there was quite a bit of a shift in the Blood Knight story lore base. A lot of characters had to kind of shift their perspective. Some of them retcon things about their character, and nobody's immersion or nobody's the community was not damaged or damned by that shift in a few characters, altering how their relationships there went and how their interaction with that part of the lore went in light of that new information. No harm was done, and roleplay was facilitated and productive, and everybody got along, got on with their roleplaying, got on with their stories, and it was totally fine. So I don't think retconning is necessarily the big evil that some people would make it out to be. But yeah, like I said, again, I wouldn't be using it all the time because it damages consistency and continuity, which are very key to people being engaged and interested in a storyline. So we've talked about what it is to retcon. We've talked about why you might want to retcon things. You might want to retcon things for other reasons too. For example, say you have got into a bit of roleplay and it turns out that the person you're roleplaying with is not very pleasant out of character. You're having trouble with them out of character. There's maybe some harassment going on, or they're giving you some issue or trouble. It is okay to retcon that for those out of character reasons. It's okay to pull your character back from that and to retcon that having happened. You're a player playing a game at the end of the day, and you need to feel safe and you need to be enjoying yourself, and it is okay for you to step away from things that you are not enjoying and that you do not feel safe in. And you can retcon those things around doing that if you have to. Obviously, if there's a pathway to doing it in a smooth in-character way that works for people, do that. But that is not always the case. So bear in mind that you're not the bad guy for protecting yourself in real life from something that's going on just in a game. As a side note. So we've talked about what it is. We've talked about why we might want to do it. How do you do it then? If you've decided that you need to retcon something about your character, how do you go about doing that? So we need to consider the scale of the retcon. Is it a small retcon or is it a large retcon, right? Because that changes, I think, how you should deal with it. So how do you work out where it is on that scale? So before you do anything, you need to work out if it's a large retcon or if it's a small retcon. And how you do this is you ask yourself, how many people outside of my character already know about it, already know about the information that you want to retcon? And how far is it going to change his current situations and motivations? So basically, outside of your character, who actually knows about this information that you're changing, and how is he going to change? If you change it, even if no one knows, and you change it and he's significantly different the next day, that could be a bit of a bigger issue. So if the answer is lots to either or both of those questions, if lots of people know about it and it was going to change your character loads, then it's a big retcon. If the answer to those questions is not lots, if it's, one or two and a few, it's a very small retcon, okay? So once you know what size of retcon you're dealing with, then you can more appropriately deal with it. So no matter what kind of retcon you have, the next step is, and always will be, the most important step, and that is communication. It is important for this. It is important for everything else. Communicate. Communicate, communicate, communicate. I cannot say that one enough. I think everyone that knows me is absolutely sick of me saying it, to be honest. But you should always communicate. So if it's a minor retcon, something that a few other characters know about perhaps, and it's something that's going to alter your character, maybe not in a drastic, like a completely personality changing way, then you need to go to the players of those characters, drop them an out of character whisper, or reach them out on Discord or whatever means of contact you have with them, and just say, listen, I'm thinking about changing this part of my character. It would slightly affect the relationship between our characters, or this plot that we have ongoing. Are you all right with that? Is that fine? You can even say, reasons for changing it are whatever. If you want to give them some context for why you feel like it's necessary, that can sometimes help people understand and get on board with why you believe it's necessary to do it. Most of the time I imagine they will be completely fine with that, unless it's something that completely shifts the dynamic, and like I said, that would be a different kind of retcon entirely. So if it's just something minor, I would go to those people, let them know what your thinking is, explain your process, explain your reasonings, and just put out there what how you see it changing the situation, and how you see it having very little effect on the actual narrative, but just so that they know, to keep them in the loop. It keeps everybody feeling like they're in the loop, that they're pegged in, that they know what's going on, that they're being communicated with, and they feel listened to and heard, and they'll be able to take that accordingly and bring that in character, and it just makes it much, much smoother for everyone involved to do it that way. If you do need to change something minor about your character, and sometimes you do, sometimes these things happen. Again, if it's slightly wider reaching, you might want to speak to your guildmaster, or if you're in a group or a community that it might affect, you could go and reach out to them. You could do a little post, just explain yourself. So, say what you're changing, why you're changing it, how you see it affecting things, just to give them a heads up on how to integrate that into their understanding and their perspective going forward. It's not fair to blind dump things on people and expect them to roll with the punches. It's better if you can give people as much warning and as much information as you possibly can. Again, just communicate as much as you can. And if they raise any issues, if they have any issues with something that you're trying to retcon, they might raise those issues at that point, and you can talk them over, work them out, try and find the best solution for everyone involved. Because again, sometimes things might affect their character in a negative way. So see if you can be a bit of give and take. Just cooperate and work together to try and find a solution that works for everyone to the best possible outcome, so that nobody's left lumping all of a negative situation. Okay, so if you have a large scale retcon that you want to initiate. For example, you want to change your character's class. For some it's pretty easy, like hunters, rogues and warriors, kind of interchangeable. But say you've got a rogue and you want them to become a mage. You want to play a mage now. So you want your character to be a mage. So you're thinking about retconning the fact that that they're a rogue. Now that can be quite jarring for some people. Now one way to do it is, again, to speak to people out of character, to gather up, in that case, you're talking to everyone that character's met, so perhaps their whole guild or whatever else. Gather up those people, try and again communicate as much as you can, and see if they're okay, if they feel like they could be able to just roll with that in character. But if not, personally, I feel like if you're going for a large retcon, and it's not something out of character, this doesn't count for if you're being harassed out of character by someone, or if you're being bullied by a group or something like that. If it's an out of character thing, like situation like that, absolutely do take the fast approach and get it sorted out as fast as possible. But if you're amongst a group of friends and you just want to make a big change to your character, they've changed something in the patch notes about your spec, and you're just not enjoying it anymore, so you want to change it. I think the best way to do those large scale changes in your character, if you don't feel like just suddenly chopping it off, or people are not comfortable with chopping the current narrative and the current consistency and continuity to that degree, you can always use it to make more roleplay. Do it slowly, speak with people, make a story, create a narrative that allows your character to get from where they are now to where you want them to be via a story. Make it into more roleplay. I'm always trying to turn everything we have to do into more roleplay. If someone brings me a situation in character, I'm always going to try and turn it into more roleplay. If someone brings me a problem, I'm going to try and turn it into more roleplay. If someone says, I have this character and they just don't fit in, I'm going to try and turn that into more roleplay. So basically, you want a self-feeding machine. So you want it constantly to be creating roleplay. So if you can take something that you think is going to be a problem and a hindrance to your roleplay and turn it into a story that gets people involved and that makes it feel more real to you and to them together, it's going to be a better situation for both of you, because you're going to feel more engaged with that change. It's not going to feel as sudden and as disengaging for you and for them. And also it creates all this narrative and all this plot and all this story that you guys can have fun playing with, that might then change their characters in ways they hadn't expected as well, because that's what roleplay does at the end of the day. And I feel like that can be a much more engaging and much more productive and constructive way to go about changing things, if you can at all, if it works in the situation. I know not all situations, it'll not work for all situations, and I know that. But if you can make it work, then by all means use it as fuel for a bigger narrative and for more role play, to get the maximum out of it that you possibly can. And if you can't do that and it doesn't work for your situation, then just communicate as much as you can with as many relevant people as possible and see what way you can work it out to best fit everyone's needs. Now, retconning of any size can be disruptive to story. It can be disruptive to your character. It can be disruptive to anyone's character and other people's character. It can be destructive to guild narratives and personal narratives. It can be disruptive to roleplay. So I would avoid trying to do it. I would avoid retconning if at all possible. It's not something you should do just because, I don't like, I don't know, I can't even think of something off the top of my head, but it's not something you should do frivolously and without good, proper amount of thought put into it. But if you're really not happy with something, then it's absolutely something I think you should look into. Or if, especially again, like I said, if something's going on out of character that you can't be putting yourself in that position, then it's definitely something you need to consider. But I would try to, if at all possible, leave it as not the first answer. Give a few other things a try first, especially if it's an in-character issue, if it's a narrative issue with your character. Try a few other solutions first before you end up going to retconning, because like I said, it can be a hiccup. And I feel like if you do have to retcon, try and find another narrative to the result, like a story to get you there, instead of just chopping and changing. And if you're struggling with that, speak to people around you, because sometimes it's hard to see your own story. It's hard to see your own character when you're trying to fix a problem that's troubling you. It can be hard to see the resolution or the possible options there. So maybe speak to other people about it. Say, listen, I'm having trouble with this aspect of the story or this aspect of my character, and I kind of want to change it into this, but I'm not sure how to go about it. Because other people they have a different set of eyes. Is that the saying? Get another set of eyes on it. They might be able to come up with a solution that you might have missed, and that'll help you out in the long run. Or drop a comment down below, or catch up with us in Discord, because I have a special talent for making A get to B in the that's my special. I'm no good at running events. I'm no good at any of that stuff, but I can find a story out of any problem situation. So I hope this was helpful to you. We will be back again next week as always, and I will see you then. And until then, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week as always, friends. Bye.